Chapter 1, Going Abroad. Nora, you're amazing with these scores. You're a shoe-in for your dream art school. Nora bit her lip. I've decided to go to the US to study finance. I leave next month. The room fell silent. Her classmates exchanged bewildered glances. Nora, didn't you say getting into a top art program was your dream? And what about your brother? What happens to him if you leave? At the mention of Julian Rhodes, Nora froze for a moment. I haven't told my brother yet. Please keep this a secret for me. Everyone understood. Nora had been adopted by the Rhodes family when she was 5, gaining adoptive parents and a brother. When she was 8, her adoptive parents died in an accident, leaving her and 16-year-old Julian to fend for themselves. Those years were incredibly hard on Julian. He had to face the cunning old board members at the company while also raising a young child. From her food and clothing to her daily life, Julian took care of everything personally. At some point, Nora's young heart began to stir, and she fell uncontrollably in love with her brother, to whom she shared no blood. But that love led to their complete estrangement. A week ago, when the college entrance exam results were released, Nora lived up to all expectations, placing 3rd in the city. She could have her pick of any university in the country. When Julian, smiling, asked what she wanted as a reward, Nora, emboldened by a little too much wine, confessed, "Brother, I want you, I love you." Julian's body went rigid. He shoved her away. Nora opened her eyes to see the shock in his turn to disappointment and disgust. "Nora, you're drunk," he said sharply. She grabbed his hand, desperate to make him understand. "I'm not drunk, Julian. We're not related by blood. I want a real family with you. A family that will never be broken apart." Crying, Nora pulled out letter after letter she had never dared to send. Every word on every page was a testament to the love that had flooded her heart for over a decade. But Julian yanked his sleeve from her grasp, his voice cold as ice. "That's enough. Nora, your vile thoughts make me sick." His words were like a bucket of ice water, extinguishing the passionate flame of her love and turning it into a blade that pierced her heart. The next day, Julian had a girlfriend. He brought her home and told Nora to call her sister-in-law. But those 2 words were like a fishbone lodged in her throat, making it impossible to speak. Nora fled the house, utterly devastated. 3 days ago, Julian had announced he was throwing her a coming-of-age party. Nora's heart had filled with joy, thinking their relationship might be healing. She never imagined that to crush her hopes completely, he would use the occasion to propose to his girlfriend and announce their engagement. The Julian of the past had held Nora in the palm of his hand, promising to throw her the grandest coming-of-age party to tell the world his precious pearl was all grown up. The Julian of today announced his own wedding at her party. Sensing a gaze from behind, Julian turned and met Nora's reddened eyes. His brow furrowed in displeasure, as if blaming her for ruining the mood. A sharp pain lanced through Nora's heart, and she turned to leave. But Julian's girlfriend, Lydia Lowell, smiled and waved, walking toward Nora with her arm linked through Julian's. "Happy birthday, Nora. Soon, we'll all be one family." The hand holding Nora's champagne flute trembled. Her heart felt as if it had shattered in that instant. "One family?" she whispered to herself. "Is this even my home anymore?" As if on purpose, Julian wrapped his arm around Lydia's waist. "Nora, you ran off last time and made your sister-in-law upset for quite a while. You should toast her today as an apology." As Julian emphasized the words, sister-in-law, again and again, reality crashed down on Nora. This was no longer her home. Julian no longer belonged only to her. Her years of one-sided devotion had to end. The thought that she would soon be leaving, that she and Julian would have nothing to do with each other anymore, brought a surprising sense of relief. She smiled and raised her glass. "Sister-in-law, I'm sorry. I was in a rush last time and didn't have a chance to say hello." Lydia smiled gently. "It's all right. It's normal to feel upset when someone suddenly comes to steal your brother. All children are like that. But don't you worry, Nora. I'll take care of you like a little sister from now on. You'll just have one more person to love you." Nora looked at Julian, meeting his indifferent gaze. She forced back the pain welling in her chest and managed a smile. "You and my brother make a perfect couple. Handsome and talented, a match made in heaven. I wish you a long and happy life together." Hearing her words, Julian's brow tightened. He didn't feel the relief he expected. Instead, a strange discomfort churned in his gut. After the party, Nora was gathering her things when she passed her art studio and noticed the light was on. Her heart dropped. She walked in to find Lydia Lowell, holding a charcoal sketch of a person. Nora rushed forward and snatched the drawing from her. "Who said you could come into my studio?" she roared. Lydia's eyes were filled with scorn. "Why so flustered? Are you hiding something you don't want people to see?" Nora's heart leaped into her throat. "Nora, aren't you disgusting? Julian took pity on you, adopted you, cared for you, and you developed these vile feelings for him. No wonder you always seem to pop up and interrupt us whenever I tried to get close to Julian. You're in love with your own brother. Don't you think you're pathetic?" The mockery on Lydia's face was almost tangible. Nora clenched her fists, her voice chilling. "My feelings are none of your business. This is my studio. Get out." But Lydia kicked over an easel and a set of paints. In an instant, all the canvases on the floor and the easel were ruined. Not satisfied, she stomped on them a few more times, shattering the wooden frame to splinters. Nora rushed forward and pushed Lydia away. "What are you doing? What gives you the right to destroy my things?" Lydia stumbled. Her foot slipped on the spilled paint, and with a thud, she fell to the ground. Ignoring Lydia, Nora frantically tried to salvage the paint-smeared drawings on the floor. Just as she was about to pick up the last one, she was yanked to her feet. Nora looked up into Julian's accusing eyes. "Nora, why did you push your sister-in-law?" Her eyes red and her nose tingling with unshed tears, Nora felt a profound sense of injustice. "She knocked over my paintings first." Lydia's voice was soft and weak. "Julian, I heard you say Nora loves to paint, so I just wanted to take a look. But Nora suddenly pushed me down and told me to get out, saying this was her house and I didn't belong here. She even said her brother was hers alone, and anyone who wanted to be with him deserved to die." Chapter 2. "I don't want you any more." Tears streamed uncontrollably down Lydia's face. "Julian, it's all my fault. I'm the one who made Nora unhappy." Julian's gaze fell on the drawing in Nora's hand, and his eyes turned to ice. "Show it to me." Nora, her eyes brimming with tears, shook her head and instinctively hid the drawing behind her back. Losing his patience, Julian snatched it from her. When he saw the drawing, his expression went completely cold. The man in the portrait was clearly him. In the corner was an inscription, "To my love." Nora tried desperately to explain. "Brother, it's not like that. Lydia destroyed the easel you gave me. I was just angry and pushed her. I didn't think she would fall." Julian's face was a mask of disappointment. "Nora, apologize to your sister-in-law. She is going to be the mistress of this house. You attacked her over a worthless easel. Where has your upbringing gone all these years?" Hearing this, Nora's heart trembled. To Julian, it was just a worthless easel. But this was the easel Julian had given her after their adoptive parents died. Back then, she had spent her days in tears, crying in his arms, terrified she would forget her parents' faces. Julian had told her she wouldn't, and the next day he presented her with the easel, saying that as long as she drew them, she would never forget. For years, Nora had treasured that easel like a priceless jewel. Now, in Julian's mouth, it was just a worthless easel. Nora's heart died completely. She stubbornly held back her tears. "I did nothing wrong. It was Lydia who trespassed in my studio without permission and destroyed my things. It's her own damn fault she fell. She brought it on herself." Slap! The sound echoed through the empty room. Nora froze, a fiery sting spreading across her cheek. In all her years with him, this was the first time she had ever been hit. Everyone knew Julian doted on Nora, protecting her like the apple of his eye. Once, a drunk man had merely insulted her, and Julian had beaten him so badly he ended up in the ICU. No one had ever dared to lay a finger on her. But now, Julian had struck her for someone else. "Brother, do you hate me this much?" Nora let out a bitter laugh, the tears finally rolling down her cheeks. She didn't know how she left the studio. That slap seemed to have shattered her soul, turning her into a walking shell. "Nora," Julian's lips moved, wanting to explain that he had never hated her. But the words were stuck in his throat, blocked by a heavy stone of guilt. At his side, Lydia saw the flicker of pain in Julian's eyes, and a flash of hatred crossed her own. She reached out and took his arm. "Julian, what were those drawings? Why did Nora react so strongly? Did I do something wrong?" Julian's pupils contracted. The memory of the inscription on the drawing erased the last trace of pity from his eyes. "Lydia, it has nothing to do with you. You did nothing wrong. Nora is just too spoiled. It's getting late. I'll have someone take you home. I'll make Nora apologize to you personally another day." Julian's assistant drove Lydia home. Nora curled up in her room, her cheek still burning. The tears soaked her pillow. Julian's slap hadn't just struck her face, it had shattered her heart. Suddenly, a clap of thunder rumbled and Nora's whole body trembled. She was terrified of thunder. Without even putting on her shoes, she ran out of her room. Just as she opened her door, the door to the adjacent room opened as well. Julian knew about Nora's fear and had come out to check on her. Seeing her run out barefoot, filled with panic, Julian instinctively pulled her into his arms. "Nora, brother's here." Under Julian's comforting embrace, Nora's racing heart gradually calmed. He led her back to her room, her hand clutching his sleeve tightly. Julian held her hand. "Don't be afraid. It's okay, I'll stay with you." Nora relaxed. Perhaps it was his gentleness, but for a moment, it felt like they had returned to how they used to be. "Brother, I wish you could be mine forever." Julian's body stiffened for a second before he patted her back. "I will always be your brother." Just as Nora was about to say more, Julian's phone rang. He pulled it out. The caller ID read, Lydia Lowell. A sense of foreboding washed over Nora. She felt that Julian was about to leave her. She clutched his sleeve, pleading, "Brother, can't you just ignore it? Please stay with me." Julian was silent for a moment, then stroked her hair. "Don't be difficult. Your sister-in-law might have something important." With that, he answered the call. Lydia's sobbing voice came through the phone. "Julian, it's thundering outside. I'm home alone and I'm scared. Can you come and stay with me?" Hearing this, panic flared in Nora's chest. She tightened her grip on his sleeve, her eyes begging him to stay. Julian looked at her and hesitated. He wanted to refuse, but then the image of Nora's confession letters and the memory of her pushing Lydia flashed through his mind. "Wait for me," he said into the phone. "I'll be right over." Nora grabbed his hand, her voice thick with emotion. "Brother, I'm scared too. Please don't go." Julian pulled her hand away. "Nora, I'll call the housekeeper to come and stay with you. Your sister-in-law needs me more." Hearing the words sister-in-law, Nora looked at him with red-rimmed eyes. "Brother, from now on, will Lydia be the only one in your heart?" Julian's heart ached at her question. "Lydia is my wife, Nora. You will always be my sister." Nora laughed at herself. "So Lydia is more important than me. That's why you'd hit me for her without even asking what happened, and now you're going to abandon me for her." Julian's hand, hanging by his side, clenched into a fist. "Nora, you shouldn't have laid a hand on your sister-in-law today. She is your elder." Nora sneered. "You're right. In the future, you and she will be a family, and I'll be the outsider. It's only natural for you to protect her." As Julian prepared to leave, Nora's voice, cold and laced with tears, cut through the air. "Brother, if you abandon me today, then you will never be my brother again." Chapter 3. Disappointment. Julian's brow furrowed tightly. "Stop this nonsense. I'll have Mrs. Davis come stay with you." Without another moment's hesitation, he turned and walked quickly away. A few minutes later, Nora ran out barefoot. "Brother, are you really leaving me?" But Julian got into his car without a backward glance, leaving her alone in the courtyard as the torrential rain beat down. Another clap of thunder echoed in the sky, and Nora crouched down, covering her head in fear. A shadow fell over her. A tall young man was standing beside her. "Nora, what's wrong?" Freddy Forrester knelt and helped her to her feet. Another crack of thunder sounded. Nora, trembling uncontrollably, instinctively threw herself into his arms. Freddy's body went rigid as Nora embraced him. He asked gently, "Are you afraid of thunder?" He wanted to take her back inside, but Nora refused. "I don't want to go back." That was no longer her home, and Julian was no longer her brother. Freddy looked at her drenched, shivering body with concern. "If you don't mind, you can stay at my place for the night." Nora was taken to Freddy's house. After rummaging through his closet for a while, Freddy finally found a clean dress. "Nora, go take a shower and change out of those wet clothes, or you'll catch a cold." Nora took the clothes, nodded, and quietly thanked him. Half an hour later, she emerged, changed and with her emotions mostly in check. "Freddy, thank you for today." Freddy was Nora's classmate. An excellent student with handsome features and the refined air of a gentle scholar, he was the campus heartthrob. Nora's grades were on par with his, and their teachers often paired them up for competitions. They had won the Global Chemistry Olympiad together, and both had been offered early admission to Harvard. Over time, they had become friends. Freddy set up a bed for Nora in the guest room while he settled on the sofa in the living room. Nora, if you're scared, leave the door and the lights on. I'll be right outside your door. Nora's nose tingled. Freddy, thank you, really. That night, Nora slept surprisingly well. In the past, only Julian's presence on a stormy night could bring her peace. She had thought she couldn't live without him. But now, looking at Freddy on the sofa, she suddenly realized Julian was no longer a necessity. Freddy woke up shortly after Nora did. Hang on, I made you some breakfast. At the breakfast table, Nora looked at Freddy, hesitant to speak. Freddy glanced up, his eyes full of warmth. Nora, if you have something to say, just say it. Nora asked cautiously, Freddy, can I stay here for a while? I'm flying to the US in a month. Don't worry, I won't stay for free. I can pay you rent. Freddy didn't ask any questions, he just smiled. Of course, we can go to America together. It'll be nice to have a familiar face in a foreign country. Don't worry about rent. I have plenty of empty rooms here. You can stay as long as you like. If you really feel bad about it, how about you help me with my English? My IELTS score could still use some work. Nora agreed without hesitation. She had, after all, scored a perfect 9 on her IELTS on the first try. After breakfast, Nora needed to go back to her house to pack some things. Freddy mentioned he'd left something at the Rhodes house the day before, which was why he had been there to find her in the rain. At the Rhodes house, Nora had just walked in with Freddy when she saw Julian sitting on the sofa, his face dark and stormy. Nora, where did you run off to? Do you have any idea how worried I was all night? Lydia suddenly appeared from behind Julian, her eyes scanning Nora and Freddy. Nora, it's normal to be rebellious as a teenager, but you can't just spend the night with a boy so casually. A girl needs to protect herself. Her words all but directly accused Nora of running off to fool around with a boy. Hearing this, Julian finally noticed the young man behind Nora. His face instantly darkened, dripping with fury. He reached out and forcefully pulled Nora toward him. Nora, did you run away last night just to find this pretty boy? How can you be so shameless? His grip bruised her wrist, and his humiliating accusation made her face burn with shame. Nora struggled and wrenched her arm free. Julian, you accuse me without asking a single question, and you even insult my classmate. Or is it that you just agree with whatever Lydia says? You two really are close, aren't you? Nora looked coldly at Lydia, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Don't judge others by your own filthy standards. Not everyone is as vile as you. Lydia immediately clung to my brother's arm, looking aggrieved. Nora, I was just concerned for you. How could you say that about me? Nora sneered. Concerned for me. By deliberately slandering my reputation with your passive-aggressive insinuations. Do you take everyone for a fool? Julian's eyes turned red with anger at seeing Nora defend Freddy. His chest heaved as he roared, Nora, I've spoiled you so much over the years that you've become completely unruly. Apologize to your sister-in-law. Nora's nose tingled. She looked up and stared directly at Julian. I did nothing wrong. I won't apologize. In a fit of rage, Julian raised his hand, the veins on its back bulging. Freddy instinctively moved to shield Nora. Tears streamed down Nora's face, her voice filled with disappointment. Brother, are you going to hit me again for Lydia? Julian's hand froze in midair. He clenched his fist and lowered it, but he was still seeing red from the thought of Nora spending the night with that boy. Nora, apologize to your sister-in-law. Otherwise, get out of this house. I don't have a defiant sister like you. Chapter 4. Allergy. Nora had imagined she would leave, but she never thought she would one day be kicked out by Julian. When their adoptive parents died, Nora had been consumed by the fear of being abandoned again. Julian, sensing her anxiety, had shown her an old family photo to comfort her. Nora, we will always be a family. I will always be your brother, and this will always be your home. No one will ever abandon you. As the words left his own mouth, Julian saw Nora's devastated expression and felt a pang of regret. Nora's eyes filled with tears, but she managed a laugh. Brother, this is the last time I'll call you that. Don't worry, I'll just grab my things and leave. I promise I'll never disturb your family again. Wiping away her tears, Nora walked past them and went upstairs. In her bedroom, she stopped in front of a cabinet and froze. Inside were all the gifts Julian had given her over the years. From a simple stuffed doll that cost a few dollars to jewelry worth tens of thousands, every item was a testament to his profound love for her. Nora had treasured them all, keeping them locked in a glass cabinet. A glance at them before bed was enough to ensure sweet dreams. She took out the key, paused for a moment, and then placed it on the table. These things didn't belong to her. They would stay here, including the Julian who no longer belonged to her. Nora packed only a few changes of clothes, her ID, and her passport. Freddy helped her with her suitcase, asking softly if there was anything else she needed. Nora shook her head, but as she passed the art studio, she stopped. Freddy, who had followed her in, saw her gather a large stack of drawings. He thought she was taking them with her and was about to help when Nora turned around. "Freddy, do you have a lighter?" Confused, Freddy handed her one. Nora took a metal basin and, one by one, set the drawings on fire, tossing them into it. As she watched them all turn to ash, she said with a sense of release, "It's all over." Though filled with questions, Freddy said nothing. He just stood by her side, watching as she made one last tour of the house, finally ending up in the living room. Julian was still there. His eyes widened when he saw her packed suitcase. "Nora, what are you doing? Are you really running away from home for this pretty boy? Nora, do you think you're so grown up now? I raised you all these years just so you could run off with some stray you picked up." Lydia held Julian back. "Julian, Nora is still young, don't scare her. Why don't we sit down and talk calmly? Please do it for my sake." Julian clenched his fists, suppressed his anger, and tried to speak calmly. "Nora, I raised you. I never once wronged you. And now you're running away from home over a small argument? Where did all the manners I taught you go?" Nora saw how Julian's fury evaporated at a single word from Lydia. A sour feeling rose in her chest. So, Lydia's words held that much power, enough to so easily diffuse the situation. Clenching her hand, Nora felt a bitter taste in her mouth, but she reminded herself that she was leaving soon. She and Julian would have no more ties. She turned and sat on the sofa. "Brother, thank you for taking care of me and raising me all these years. I will pay you back for all the money you've spent on me." Hearing this, Julian felt a sense of unease. Something was wrong with Nora. He felt a deep foreboding, as if something precious was about to slip away. Nora was about to tell him she was going abroad, to say one last goodbye and put a final, respectful end to their decade-long bond. Just then, Lydia emerged from the kitchen holding a plate. "Nora, I made this cake myself. Let's eat and talk." Nora frowned. She didn't believe for a second that Lydia's intentions were good, but she just wanted to say her goodbyes to Julian and leave. "No, thank you. I don't like cake." But Lydia, as if she couldn't understand, pushed the cake towards Nora's mouth. "Nora, Julian told me you love cake, so I learned how to make it especially for you. Please just try a bite." Nora glanced at the cake and saw tiny flecks of mango mixed in. She was allergic to mango. "I'm not eating it." Nora pushed the cake away, and it fell onto Lydia's dress. Before Nora could explain, Lydia burst into tears. "Nora, do you hate me that much? Is it because I'm with your brother that you dislike me so intensely?" Julian's recently calmed expression instantly darkened again, as if a taboo had been struck. "Get another piece of cake," he ordered coldly. Lydia went to the kitchen and returned with another slice, handing it to him. Julian held the cake right in front of Nora's face. "Eat." Nora's heart trembled. "There's mango in it, I can't eat it." Julian sneered. "So what if there's mango? Is it going to kill you?" Nora's body shook. She never thought those words would come from Julian's mouth. Freddy suddenly appeared at Nora's side and snatched the cake away. "Nora doesn't want to eat it, so I'll eat it for her. Stop pressuring her." The second Freddy took the cake, Julian stood up, clenched his fist, and threw a punch straight at him. "What gives you the right to eat it for her? Who the hell do you think you are?" Nora tried to intervene but was shoved to the floor by Julian. After taking a punch, Freddy immediately fought back. The two of them started brawling. Nora's eyes burned with rage. The old Julian would have specifically instructed the chef to never use any ingredients with mango. Once, at a banquet, she had accidentally eaten some and ended up in the hospital. Julian had smashed up the entire venue on the spot. After that, everyone knew that Julian Rhodes's sister was allergic to mango, and it was never served at any event she attended. Chapter 5. Parting gift now. Because of one word from Lydia, Julian was forcing her to eat a mango cake she was allergic to and was attacking her friend. Lydia was his fiancée, while she was just an adopted sister. Nora picked up the other piece of cake from the table. "Stop fighting, it's just a piece of cake. I'll eat it." With tears streaming down her face, Nora shoved the cake into her mouth. It was supposed to be sweet, but why did it taste so bitter? Julian turned and saw Nora choking back sobs. He froze. Nora threw the empty plate aside, grabbed Freddy's arm and stumbled. "Let's go." Freddy immediately supported her. Julian's expression turned to ice. He warned, "Nora, if you walk out that door with him, don't you ever come back." Tears streamed down her cheeks, but Nora smiled. "Fine, as you wish. I won't disturb your home ever again. I wish you both a long and happy life together." The panic in Julian's heart intensified. He wanted to rush forward and stop her, but Lydia grabbed his arm. "Julian, what did I do wrong? Why does Nora hate me so much?" Julian turned back and took Lydia's hand. "It's not your fault." As Nora stepped out of the Rhodes house, her vision went black and she collapsed. When she woke up, she was in a hospital. Freddy was looking at her with a worried expression. "Nora, didn't you know you were allergic to mango? The doctor said if you had arrived 10 minutes later or eaten one more bite, they wouldn't have been able to save you." Nora's face was full of apology. "I know. I'm so sorry for dragging you into this." Freddy hesitated, looking at Nora's sorrowful face, but in the end, he didn't ask any questions. "Just get some rest. Call me if you need anything." Nora stayed in the hospital for 3 days. Only after the doctor confirmed she was fine did Freddy handle her discharge papers. For the next 2 weeks, Nora and Freddy prepared for their trip to the United States. With 10 days left, Nora took out the only thing she had brought from the Rhodes house, the family photo. She opened the frame and took out a card from behind it. It was the supplementary credit card Julian had given her. All her usual expenses were paid from it. He had never let her want for anything material. Since she was leaving, she didn't want to owe him too much. She wanted to settle all debts and make a clean break. Nora gathered all the scholarship money she had won, the prize money from various competitions, the fees from tutoring rich kids, and the $300,000 scholarship from Harvard. It all added up to just over $560,000. She kept $40,000 for herself and transferred the rest to the supplementary card Julian had given her. Then, she took out a treasured snow globe from her suitcase. She had made it herself, and inside was a photo of her adoptive parents, herself, and Julian. It was a birthday present for him. His birthday was in 10 days, the same day she was leaving for America. Nora put the card and the snow globe in a bag and went to Julian's company. The receptionist recognized Nora and told her that Julian was in a meeting, but she could wait for him in his office. Nora shook her head. She was only there to drop something off. There was no need to see him. Julian probably didn't want to see her either. Nora took out the bag and handed it to the receptionist. "Could you please give this to Julian Rhodes for me?" Before the receptionist could take it, someone else snatched it away. "Nora, you still have the nerve to show your face at this company." It was Lydia, holding the bag with a look of disgust. Nora frowned and tried to grab the bag back, but Lydia deliberately loosened her grip. With a crash, the snow globe shattered into countless pieces all over the floor. Seeing the photo inside the globe, Lydia's face twisted in revulsion. "Nora, aren't you disgusting? Julian can't stand the sight of you, and you still bring him this kind of photo. Are you that pathetic? You deserve to be an orphan with no parents. I bet you're a jinx who killed your aunt and uncle." Hearing those last 2 sentences, Nora froze. When her adoptive parents died, everyone had called her a jinx, saying she had cursed her biological parents to death, and then, less than a year after being adopted, had cursed Mr. and Mrs. Rhodes as well. It was Julian who had sought out every single person who had said that and beaten them up. After that, no one dared to speak of it again. Her adoptive parents' death was a forbidden topic. Now that Lydia had brought it up again, Nora's fists clenched, her reason washed away by rage. She rushed forward and slapped Lydia across the face. "Who the hell do you think you are? What gives you the right to judge me? If I'm a jinx, the first person I'll curse to death is you." Caught off guard by the slap, Lydia retaliated by grabbing Nora's hair. But she was wearing high heels and accidentally stepped on a piece of the broken snow globe. She fell, pulling Nora down with her. Nora landed on top of Lydia's hand. Lydia screamed and let go. Nora scrambled to her feet and saw that a long shard of glass had pierced through Lydia's hand, with many smaller fragments embedded in the skin. It was a horrifying sight. Even Nora was shocked. Lydia was a painter. Her hands were more important to her than her life. "Nora, what are you doing?" Julian's furious roar came from behind her. Lydia was crying hysterically. Julian, save me my hand, I'm a painter. My hand can't be ruined. Julian rushed forward and swept Lydia into his arms. I'll take you to the hospital. You'll be fine. As he left, he shot Nora a look of pure hatred, as if she were his mortal enemy. Terrified by his expression, Nora stood frozen in place. When she finally tried to leave, she was stopped. Chapter 6. Left, miss, the president has instructed us to take you home. Home? The bodyguard nodded. Nora let out a derisive laugh. What home did she have left? It seemed she had injured Lydia, infuriating Julian, and he was keeping her here to avenge his fiancée. Nora was forcibly taken back to the Rhodes house and locked away. That evening, Nora sat by the window, looking out at the back garden, her mind filled with memories. The door was suddenly kicked open. Julian stormed in, radiating fury. Nora, when did you become so vicious? The loud noise startled Nora, and Julian's words made her heart sink even further. He grabbed her arm. Lydia's hand is injured. She might never be able to hold a paintbrush again. You're going to the hospital right now to apologize and beg for her forgiveness. Nora yanked her arm away. I'm not going. Julian raised his hand and slapped her across the face. This time, there was no trace of guilt in his eyes. Nora, I've spoiled you too much over the years. Is that why you think you can ruin Lydia's entire life and not even be willing to apologize? You must go. With red-rimmed eyes and a stubborn glare, Nora retorted, Lydia deserved it. Even if she had fallen to her death, she would have brought it on herself. The veins on Julian's forehead bulged with anger. He struck her again. Nora, you disappoint me so much. Are you going or not? Seeing Julian raise his hand once more, Nora laughed. Julian, I won't apologize. So are you going to beat me to death for Lydia? Julian's face was livid. The veins on his clenched fist stood out. Finally, he turned and left, his last words hanging in the air. I truly regret ever having a sister like you. The door was locked, leaving Nora alone. Regret? She regretted it too. Why did she have to fall in love with Julian? If she had never confessed, if they had just remained brother and sister, things would have been fine. But there were no if-onlys. At least she only had to wait one more week. Then she would be gone, and everything would be as Julian wished. He would no longer have Nora as a sister. 4 days later, Julian appeared again. Lydia is soft-hearted. She can't bring herself to blame you, but you wronged her this time. In 3 days, I'm holding an engagement party for her. Hearing this, Nora looked up. Congratulations! I wish you a long and happy life together. For some reason, hearing her congratulations left a bitter taste in his mouth. Lydia wants you to be her bridesmaid, to present the rings and give her your personal blessing. Nora refused without a second thought. I'm not going. Nora, how long are you going to keep this up? Julian said sharply. Nora sneered. I'm not keeping anything up, I just don't want to see Lydia. She disgusts me. Julian's anger flared again. Nora looked at him provocatively. What, are you going to slap me a few more times? The rage was so intense it made Julian's heart ache. Fine, Nora. If you don't go, you will never set foot outside this house again for the rest of your life. Nora's body went rigid. She couldn't let Julian keep her locked up forever. Faced with his threat, she gritted her teeth. I'll go. Julian's anger subsided. Seeing the faint red marks still on her face, he felt a pang of pity. Nora, you will always be my sister. As long as you stop causing trouble for your sister-in-law, we can still be a family. Nora said nothing. Julian's engagement party was a grand affair. It was also the day Nora was leaving for the United States. She was released from her room and given to a makeup artist to be prepped and dressed. Under the lights and music, before a crowd of hundreds, Julian walked slowly toward Lydia and spoke his vows. The officiant asked them to exchange rings. A little girl in a princess dress walked up and opened the ring box. Julian stared, then said sharply, Where did this troublemaking child come from? The little girl burst into tears, and a young woman ran to comfort her. Mr. Rhodes, this is my sister. She's the flower girl today. Julian looked at the woman and recognized her as one of Nora's classmates. Where is Nora? Where is she? The woman looked confused. Nora went to America. She's probably already on the plane by now. Mr. Rhodes, didn't you know? Chapter 7. Regret. Julian was stunned, his expression instantly turning grim. Even if Nora didn't want to come, she shouldn't have used such a ridiculous lie to deceive me. What would she be doing in America? That's absurd. The woman, frightened by Julian's demeanor, took a few steps back. Nora went to America for school. She received an early admission offer from Harvard for her outstanding performance in the Global Chemistry Olympiad. At the time, she hadn't accepted it because she wanted to stay here and go to a top local university. But a month ago, at her birthday party, she suddenly announced she was going. She asked us to keep it a secret. I thought she had told you. The words, "a month ago," she suddenly decided to go to America, echoed in Julian's mind. That day was Nora's coming-of-age party, the day he had proposed to Lydia specifically to crush Nora's feelings, the day he had deliberately made things difficult for her. Is that why Nora chose to leave? Did I drive her away? Nora had always been quiet and reserved, a girl he had raised in the palm of his hand. Going to America alone would be an immense challenge for her. In a foreign land, would she be able to take care of herself? What if she ran into trouble or was bullied? He couldn't bear to imagine it. The thought of Nora suffering made him sick with regret. A sharp pain seized Julian's heart. Had he been wrong? He shouldn't have used such an extreme method. Now, his mind was flooded with nothing but self-blame and regret. Beside him, Lydia grabbed his arm, her eyes filled with unease. She was terrified Julian would do something rash. This was her engagement party, something she had schemed for, even sacrificing her hand. Nothing could go wrong. Julian, Harvard is a prestigious university. Nora is going there for a better future. After the party, I'll help you sort things out with her. Suddenly, Julian's phone vibrated. He opened it to see a bank notification, a transfer of $520,000. A text message followed. "Brother, this is the last time I will ever call you that. Thank you for taking care of me and raising me all these years. Now that you have a new family, I, as your sister for the last time, wish you a happy engagement. May you have peace and joy for the rest of your days. We will never meet again." Seeing the transfer and those final 4 words, Julian's heart sank. This time, Nora was truly cutting all ties with him. The fear of loss spiked to an all-time high. He looked at Nora's classmate and asked urgently, "Did Nora say when she would be back?" The classmate answered cautiously, "Nora said she might stay in America for good. She might never come back." Julian stumbled, his eyes turning crimson as he murmured in self-reproach, "Nora, how could you just leave your brother without a word?" With bloodshot eyes, he asked, "What time was her flight?" Her classmate replied, 1:30. Julian glanced at the time. There were only 30 minutes left. It would take at least that long to get to the airport, and he'd miss boarding anyway. He knew he couldn't make it, but he couldn't bear to give up. He pulled out his phone and dialed her number, only to be met with the mechanical voice of the operator. Nora had blocked him. Phone, messaging apps, she had left no way to contact her. He realized that this time, he might truly lose her forever. After a moment's hesitation, his voice was heavy. "Nora is my sister. I can't just let her go." With that, Julian started to leave, but Lydia grabbed him, holding on for dear life. "Julian, calm down. Nora is a grown woman. She can take care of herself. Besides, this is our engagement party. Everyone is watching. Are you going to abandon me and make me the laughingstock of the entire city?" Julian shoved her away. "That's the sister I raised. She's more important than my own life. She doesn't want me anymore. I can't be calm. Cancel the engagement for today. We can have another one later. I can't lose Nora. I'm sorry, I will compensate you." Without a backward glance, Julian ran out. Lydia was left standing alone, a bitter, self-deprecating sneer on her face as she whispered, "Sister, is she really just a sister? Julian's feelings for Nora are more than just brotherly, aren't they?" At the airport, Nora stood at the boarding gate, gazing into the distance. Freddy came to her side. "It's windy out here. Let's go in. Boarding starts in 10 minutes. Nora shook her head, her eyes still fixed on the horizon, reluctant to leave. "I just want one last look at the place where I lived for 18 years. Freddy stood beside her. "It's okay. I'll come back with you someday." Nora turned to him, smiling. "Barring any accidents, I probably won't be coming back. Freddy, thank you for being with me." This place held all her love and hate, her joy and sorrow, her youth, and the feelings she never should have had. Let her departure be a clean break from her past. Freddy bent down to meet her gaze. "Nora, you've thanked me many times. I don't need your thanks. I haven't really helped you with much. It's just nice to have a friend by your side in a foreign country." The airport speakers announced the call to board. "It's time to go." Nora nodded and followed Freddy onto the plane. Just a second before she stepped through the gate, a voice called out from behind her. Nora, Chapter 8. Canceling the engagement, the voice made Nora think she was hallucinating. Wasn't today Julian's engagement party? How could he possibly be here? She turned around and saw him, the person who shouldn't have been there. Julian's face was etched with anxiety. Nora, please come back, I'm sorry. You're all alone in America, in a foreign country. I can't rest easy. Stay with me, I can take care of you for the rest of your life. Nora smiled faintly. Brother, I won't be able to make it to your wedding, so let me wish you a happy marriage in advance. With those words, Nora severed all ties to her past with Julian. She turned and boarded the plane without looking back. Julian watched her receding figure, his heart flooded with regret. He had once shunned her love, and now that she had let him go, he was drowning in remorse. He was wrong, so terribly wrong. It wasn't until she was truly gone that he realized Nora was etched into the very fabric of his life. He had raised her, but in truth, it was because of her that he'd had a home. His feelings for her were not just those of a brother for a sister. But this realization came too late. He had hurt her too deeply. She didn't want him anymore. The plane soared overhead, the distance between sky and earth severing their past. Julian returned to the Rhodes house, a hollow shell of himself. As he passed Nora's art studio, he couldn't stop himself from rushing inside. He was shocked to find it completely empty, save for a broken easel and a pile of ashes on the floor. There wasn't a single painting left, as if nothing had ever existed there. He frantically searched the room, desperate to find any trace Nora had left behind. Finally, in a corner, he found a single, yellowed drawing. It depicted 4 people, his parents, Nora, and himself. Beside her signature, Nora had written a single sentence. I have a home now. Julian's fingers trembled. He had promised her this would always be her home, yet he was the one who had driven her away. She no longer wanted this home. The powerful business magnate, a man who commanded the corporate world, now cried like a child who had lost his most beloved toy. He wandered through every corner of the house, searching for anything Nora had left behind. But apart from that one yellowed drawing, there was nothing. It was as if Nora had never existed. Unable to accept her complete erasure from his life, Julian called his assistant and told him to book a flight to America. He had to find Nora, apologize to her, and bring her home. When the company's board members heard of his plans, they rushed to dissuade him. They used every tactic, from threats to pleas, even invoking the memory of his parents to pressure him. The company was at a critical juncture, poised to enter the international market. As president, Julian couldn't afford to falter now. Forced into a corner by the weight of his parents' legacy, Julian reluctantly agreed. He would not leave the city until the company was stable. He couldn't go find Nora, but the regret and sorrow in his heart only grew heavier. By day, he was the cold, composed executive at the office. But at night, he would return to the Rhodes house, where the silence was deafening without the girl who used to run into his arms, without her cheerful chatter and playful demands. The house felt cavernously empty. He could only turn to alcohol for solace, drinking himself into a stupor day after day. Until one day, he drank so much his stomach started bleeding, and his assistant rushed him to the hospital. When Julian awoke, a nurse was inserting an IV into his arm. Seeing him awake, she remarked casually, "You 2 siblings are really alike, both determined to self-destruct. If you'd been found half an hour later, you'd be meeting your maker." Julian's head was pounding. The word siblings finally registered. Siblings? You know Nora, and what did you mean just now? What do you mean we're both trying to self-destruct? The nurse finished with the IV and looked up at him, speaking slowly. Mr. Rhodes, I'm a friend of Nora's. A few weeks ago, she had an allergic reaction that sent her into shock. I was part of the emergency team that treated her. I was too busy with work at the time, so I didn't get to see her after she woke up, but I asked a colleague to give her a good scolding for me. She then looked at Julian, her expression curious. Mr. Rhodes, I remember you being so strict about keeping anything with mango away from Nora. How did she end up eating so much mango cake that day? She nearly died. Chapter 9. The truth her words hit Julian like a physical blow. The cake Lydia made had mango in it, and he had attacked her friend and forced her to eat it. Nora had looked at him with such disappointment, telling him there was mango in the cake and she didn't want to eat it. And what had he said? So what if there's mango? Is it going to kill you? He had been so blinded by anger that he had completely forgotten. Nora's allergy to mango could kill her. She must have hated him so much in that moment, being forced to eat something that could take her life. Julian raised a hand and slapped himself across the face. He had almost killed Nora. He was a bastard. The nurse jumped, startled by his action, completely bewildered. After a long while, Julian's turmoil subsided into a grim resolve. He had to get the company's affairs in order as quickly as possible. Only then could he go to Nora, beg for her forgiveness, and do everything in his power to make amends. With this new purpose, Julian pulled himself together. After being discharged, he threw himself into his work, taking on endless overtime, negotiating deals, working 15-hour days. It was as if he were trying to wring every last drop of time from his schedule, leaving no room to think about Nora. Julian's behavior made Lydia anxious. Their engagement had been abruptly canceled, but since she was still, on the surface, his fiancée, everyone assumed they would reschedule. But 3 months had passed, and she hadn't even seen his face. She realized Julian was likely avoiding her. She even wondered if he had found out about her lies. But then she dismissed the thought. If he knew, he would have confronted her, not just hidden from her. Besides, with Nora gone, how could he possibly know the truth? Reassured, Lydia felt a surge of confidence. Ignoring the receptionist's attempts to stop her, she stormed directly into his office. The receptionist and Julian's assistant followed anxiously, not daring to be too forceful with their future boss's wife. When the office door was pushed open, Julian looked up, annoyed. Seeing Lydia, his expression flickered. His staff nervously tried to explain. Lydia, her voice soft and pitiful, her eyes red, asked, "Julian, what does this mean? Why are you avoiding me? Have I done something to wrong you?" Julian rubbed his temples and waved for the others to leave. He then rose and closed the office door. "Lydia, you're a good person. You haven't wronged me. I've just been in a state lately, and with so much going on at the company, I haven't had the time to see you." Lydia's anxiety eased slightly. She went to him and took his arm. "Julian, I know Nora's departure hit you hard, and I've given you time to heal. But you have to consider me too. When you canceled the engagement, so many people laughed at me. So, when are we going to reschedule?" Julian's body went rigid. After a moment, his voice filled with apology, he said, "Lydia, let's call off the engagement. I don't think we're right for each other. You deserve someone better. I don't want to hold you back. I'm the one who wronged you. I wanted to marry you as compensation for what Nora did to your hand, but I've realized I don't love you. Marrying you out of guilt would be unfair. Tell me what you want as compensation. As long as it's within reason, I'll do everything I can to give it to you." Hearing his words, Lydia's eyes filled with shock and rage. "Cancel the engagement? Julian, you know I've loved you for years. We were so close to being engaged, and now you're just calling it off. What do you take me for?" Julian turned away, unable to look at her. "I'm sorry. I will compensate you, but I won't marry you. I have work to do. Go home and think about what you want." Lydia's eyes glinted with hatred and self-mockery. She clenched her fists and turned to leave. It was all because of Nora. Nora had ruined her engagement. She wished she could grind Nora's bones to dust. In the office, Julian looked at the family photo on his desk, his fingers tracing the girl's face. "Nora, I'm so sorry." He was indeed avoiding Lydia. Every time he saw her, he was reminded of how he had hurt Nora. There was another knock on the door. It was the receptionist. She was holding a small bag. "Mr. Rhodes, this is what Miss Nora came to deliver to you. Miss Lowell deliberately broke it. After you left, I thought that a gift from Miss Nora must be very important, so I saved the photo from the snow globe, the card, and the letter." Hearing it was something from Nora, Julian shot up and took the bag. Inside was a family photo, the supplementary credit card he had given her, and a letter. His hands trembled with excitement, but the receptionist's words confused him. "You said Lydia broke Nora's gift?" The receptionist nodded, taking a deep breath as if steeling herself. "Mr. Rhodes, Miss Nora is a very kind person. We all like her very much. You should know what kind of person she is. That day, it was Miss Lowell who spoke cruelly to her and smashed the gift she brought for you. Miss Nora slapped her, and Miss Lowell pulled her hair. Miss Lowell lost her balance and fell, pulling Miss Nora down with her. Mr. Rhodes, everything I've said is the truth. If you don't believe me, you can check the security footage." After the receptionist left, Julian remained frozen. With trembling hands, he called his assistant and told him to pull the security footage from the day Nora visited the company. Soon, the video was sent to his phone. Everything was exactly as the receptionist had described. Julian watched the video, saw Lydia's vile insults and curses directed at Nora, and his fists clenched tighter and tighter. How dare she treat Nora like that? Even if Nora was at fault, it wasn't her place to judge. Who gave her the right to bully Nora, the person he held in the palm of his hand? As he was drowning in regret, a call came from the Rhodes family housekeeper. "Mr. Rhodes, I was reviewing the security logs at the house and found a video of Miss Nora and Miss Lowell. I think you may have wronged the young miss." Julian opened the video and saw Lydia, her face a mask of disgust, humiliating Nora, ruthlessly destroying her easel, and then deliberately lying to his face. In the video, Nora's eyes were filled with pain and helplessness as she tried to explain. But what had he done? He had forced her to apologize. He had hit her. That was the first time in his life he had ever laid a hand on Nora. He had been so blind, so foolish. He had thought Nora's feelings for him had twisted her, made her cruel and malicious towards Lydia. But from the very beginning, he was the one who couldn't see clearly, who was blind and heartless, who let himself be used again and again, causing Nora to suffer so much. That's why she had fled to a foreign country, willing to do anything to sever their ties. Regret and hatred flooded Julian's mind, and after so long without her, he had finally come to understand his own heart. His feelings for Nora were not just brotherly. He was in love with her. He had just never been able to admit it to himself, or perhaps he had been too afraid to, constantly running away from his own heart. Now he knew. But it was too late. His blindness had caused Nora unimaginable pain. The thought made his fists clench. 3 days later, the Lowell family's business deals began to fall apart one by one. Lydia's father, Charles Lowell, stormed into Julian's office. "Julian, I need to talk to you." Julian's eyes were cold. "About what?" Charles said. "Julian, you played with my daughter's feelings and left her to be ridiculed by everyone. You knew she loved you, yet you toyed with her heart. How could you do that to her?" Julian cut right to the heart of the matter. "So you're here to talk about compensation?" Charles's face flushed. "Julian, this is what you owe my daughter. Isn't compensation what she deserves?" Julian gave a dark smile. "You're here because of the recent problems with your family's business deals, aren't you?" Charles nodded. "Julian, I was hoping you could look into who is targeting the Lowell family." Julian threw a file onto his desk. "No need to investigate. It was me." Charles froze. How could this be? He had suspected it might be Julian after all. Few corporations had the power to put the Lowell family in such a precarious position, but he had quickly dismissed the idea. Julian had been engaged to his daughter. They had a good relationship. Even though he had canceled the wedding, Lydia had told him Julian was filled with guilt and had promised to make it up to her. Why would he suddenly turn on them? He became desperate. "Julian, what is the meaning of this? You break my daughter's heart and now you're targeting our family? What have we ever done to you?" Julian sneered. "What have you done to me? You should ask your precious daughter what she did to my sister. The Lowell family hasn't gone bankrupt only because I respect the friendship you once had with my parents. But Lydia dared to hurt Nora, so naturally, I have to teach you all a lesson." Charles stumbled backward, cursing his foolish daughter under his breath. Everyone in the city knew Julian Rhodes doted on his sister, like she was the most precious thing in the world. Anyone who dared to touch a hair on her head would face his wrath like a rabid dog. How could Lydia have been so stupid as to bully Nora? She had brought this ruin upon them all. Charles pleaded, begging Julian to spare the Lowell family just this once. He promised to discipline Lydia severely and give him a satisfactory explanation. Julian had no intention of bankrupting the family. After all, there was a price to be paid for everything. He couldn't let Nora suffer for nothing. A lesson for the Lowell family would ensure Lydia suffered as well. Julian stared endlessly at the photo on his desk, hoping for the day he could finally atone for his sins to Nora. Chapter 10. He's here again 3 years later, Harvard University. The class bell rang. Nora had just finished her lecture. A light rain was falling outside, and of course, it was the one day she had forgotten her umbrella. Fortunately, her dorm wasn't far. She held her book over her head and prepared to make a run for it. Just as her foot stepped into the rain, the back of her collar was gently pulled back, and a shadow fell over her. You're just going to run back in the rain like this. What if you catch a cold? Can't you take better care of yourself? Freddy's affectionate scolding made Nora a little embarrassed. Oh, I know, but it's not raining that hard. If I run fast enough, my clothes probably won't even get wet. Freddy sighed. There's no arguing with you. Come on, I'll walk you back. If you get sick, I'll be the one worrying. Nora nodded, and Freddy held the umbrella over her as he walked her to her dorm building. He handed her a bag. Your period is due soon. Don't get chilled and don't eat anything cold for the next few days. I bought you some ginger brown sugar tea. Remember to make some for yourself. If you feel unwell, call me. I'll take you to a doctor. Nora listened to Freddy's gentle nagging, a warmth spreading through her heart. All right, I know. I'm a grown woman, not a helpless child. Freddy leaned down, bringing his face close to hers. But I like spoiling you like a child. You deserve to be cherished. Julian used to be the one who spoiled her. Now it was Freddy. Nora stood on her toes and quickly planted a kiss on Freddy's cheek. Well, thank you, my dear boyfriend. You should head back before the rain gets heavier. The unexpected kiss made Freddy's heart race, and the tips of his ears turned red. Okay, call me if you need anything, I'm always here. Nora nodded and watched him leave. For the 3 years she had been in America, Freddy had been the one to take care of her. He gave her someone to rely on in a foreign land. She had also come to realize that his feelings for her were more than just friendship. A month ago, on her birthday, Freddy had somehow convinced the university to set off a fireworks display for the entire campus. A helicopter had flown overhead, trailing a banner with a few simple words. Nora, I love you. Will you be my girlfriend? Then, like a hero from a romance novel, Freddy had appeared before her with a bouquet of flowers and confessed his feelings. Nora had said yes. Freddy was so moved his eyes turned red. That night, after a few drinks, he told her with tears in his eyes, Nora, I've liked you for so long. Ever since you beat me for first place, I noticed you. Then, as we fought side by side for the school in so many competitions, I watched you shine. You were so brilliant. I fell in love with you. I wanted to confess, but then I overheard you telling someone else you already liked someone, so I lost my nerve. It wasn't until I heard you were coming to America that I realized I might have another chance. Listening to Freddy's years of unspoken feelings, Nora's mind was a whirlwind of emotions. His heart mirrored her own when she had secretly loved Julian. But she was not Julian. She would not let Freddy down. In the years Freddy had taken care of her, Nora had come to understand her own heart. The girlish crush she'd had on Julian was likely a mix of affection born from proximity, a blend of familial love and romance. She had loved him, yes, but looking back, it was probably more familial than romantic. What she felt for Freddy now was purely love. They were kindred spirits, and her heart was drawn to him. After Freddy left, Nora glanced into the distance before turning to go upstairs. Once she was gone, a figure emerged from behind a tree in the direction she had been looking. Julian Rhodes stood in the rain, watching Nora's retreating figure, his eyes filled with endless longing. He had sorted out his company's affairs a year ago and flown to America, wanting to bring Nora back. But when he saw her laughing with her classmates, so happy and at ease, her life so beautiful and not at all the struggle he had imagined, he had lost his courage. Nora was so happy now. What right did he have to ask her to come back with him? Besides, he was the one who had driven her away. He had done so many things to hurt her. How could he dare to show his face now and disrupt the happy life she had built? Torn by his inner conflict, Julian had chosen to simply watch her from afar. Whenever he had time, he would fly over and stand at a distance, just to catch a glimpse of her. Only after Nora's figure had completely disappeared did Julian turn and walk away, his heart heavy with loneliness. Back in her dorm, Nora had just put her things on her desk when her Chinese roommate came over. Nora, Freddy is so good to you, he's so gentle and considerate, not to mention handsome and completely devoted. You know, so many international and foreign students at our school have tried to pursue him, and he's rejected every single one of them. A small, proud smile touched Nora's lips. Well, he is my boyfriend. Of course he's exceptional, her roommate giggled. Yes, and our Nora is so brilliant, Freddy is lucky to have you. If he ever got involved with another girl, it would be his loss for not knowing what he has. After a bit of teasing, her roommate suddenly said, Nora, I saw him again from the balcony just now. Nora's expression stiffened for a moment before she smiled. Have you finished your thesis yet? Do you want to get an earful from our advisor? At the mention of the thesis, her roommate scurried back to her desk. Him referred to Julian. A year after she arrived in America, she had started feeling a persistent gaze on her back. A friend later told her that someone was often seen loitering near her dorm building. Her friend had sneakily taken a picture and sent it to Nora, warning her to be careful, as America wasn't as safe as home. When Nora saw the photo, she recognized him immediately. It was Julian. She didn't know why he had come looking for her. By all accounts, he should be married to Lydia by now, or at least preparing for the wedding. How could he be in America? But since Julian hadn't approached her directly and she wanted nothing more to do with him, she pretended not to know. She simply told her friends he was an old acquaintance checking in on her. For the next few years, Julian would appear once every month or two. On every holiday, a gift would be delivered to Nora by a courier. Chapter 11. $1 million, and so 2 more years passed. Nora knew of Julian's presence, but she never sought him out. She didn't know what he wanted, but she refused to disrupt the peaceful life she now had. In the blink of an eye, another year passed, and it was Nora's 22nd birthday. Freddy and her friends had prepared a surprise party for her. Amidst the cheers of the crowd, Freddy got down on one knee and proposed. Nora, will you marry me? We don't have to get married right away. I just want a promise that we can spend the rest of our lives together. Nora's eyes welled with tears. She nodded, allowing Freddy to slide the ring onto her finger. Their fingers intertwined as they held each other in a tight embrace. Nora, thank you, Freddy whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you for giving me this chance, for making my years of hopeless dreaming come true. Toward the end of the party, Nora's phone rang. When she answered, a familiar voice came through the line. Nora, I miss you so much, but I don't dare to see you. Nora could tell something was wrong with Julian's voice. Where are you? He gave her the name of a bar not far from where they were. After hanging up, Nora said her goodbyes and headed toward the bar. Freddy, who had been close enough to overhear the call, followed her. It's not safe for you to go alone at night. I'll go with you. Nora nodded and explained, It's Julian, my brother. I'm worried he's in trouble. Freddy took her hand. I know, Nora, I trust you. She smiled. At the bar, Nora searched for a while before finding Julian in a corner booth, completely drunk. Julian looked up and saw Nora, and he froze. He tentatively reached out a hand to touch her, but it stopped in mid-air. Nora, I'm dreaming of you again. This is nice. Nora frowned. The man before her was a shadow of the confident, powerful tycoon who had once commanded respect from all. What had happened to him? A pang of sorrow went through her. With Freddy's help, Nora got Julian to a nearby hotel. The next day, Julian woke up in bed with a splitting headache. You're awake. I brought you some hangover soup and breakfast from the campus cafeteria. Julian stared blankly at Nora. He felt as if he were still dreaming. It wasn't until Nora waved a hand in front of his face that he snapped back to reality. Nora, is it really you? Nora laughed. Who else would it be? Julian was overwhelmed with a mix of emotions, unsure of what to say, yet terrified of missing this chance. Nora, I'm sorry. I didn't take care of you properly. I let you suffer. You have every right to hate me. Nora's expression was calm. Brother, I don't hate you. You raised me. Without you, I might not even be alive today. Besides, I'm very happy now. The past is in the past, and I don't want to have anything to do with it anymore. Julian's eyes turned red. He looked at her, his voice hoarse. Nora, is there any chance we can go back to how we were? Nora sighed. Brother, I was young and foolish back then, but I've grown up now. Let the past be the past. I'm doing well in America, and I don't want to disrupt the good life I have. Then she smiled. Brother, this is the best it can be for me now. Julian clenched his fists and lowered his head, his voice choked with emotion. All right, I'll go back to China tomorrow. I won't come back again. Nora, you have to be happy. Nora nodded and turned to leave. At the door, she looked back and smiled. Brother, you be happy too. Julian forced a stiff smile. Okay, we'll both be happy. Julian left America, and just as he said, he never appeared again. It was as if he had vanished completely. Nora's life returned to normal. 3 years later, Nora completed her master's degree and was working at a finance firm in the U.S. Thanks to her outstanding performance as an intern and a dazzling resume filled with international awards and scholarships, not to mention her success in resolving financial crises for several public companies, while still a student cases that were now used as examples at her university. She was hired by the global powerhouse HS Corporation right after graduation and appointed as a vice president of a subsidiary. Nora sat in her office, staring at stack after stack of contracts, feeling like her head was about to explode. Everyone called her a genius, but no one saw the sleepless nights and relentless effort behind her success. After reviewing a contract, her personal phone rang. She answered it to hear Freddy's concerned voice. "Working overtime again? The people at your company are really working you to the bone. Even an animal doesn't get work this hard." Nora laughed. "Freddy, are you insulting me?" Freddy quickly backtracked. "No, I just feel bad for you. Nora, you don't have to push yourself so hard. I can support you. Why don't you come work at my family's company? Or don't work at all. Just be the boss's wife." Nora rubbed her temples. "Freddy, this is my choice. I don't want to rely on anyone. I want to stand beside you as an equal. And don't worry about me. The company treats me well. It's just that I was promoted so quickly, I have to deliver results to earn everyone's respect." Freddy sighed, knowing he could never win an argument with her. "All right, fine. Get back to work. I'll make you a late-night snack when you get home and make sure you're well fed." Freddy was the heir to the FS group. Nora had only found out a year ago when a wealthy middle-aged woman had approached her, offered her a check for $1 million, and told her to leave Freddy. The woman, Mrs. Forrester, had spoken with undisguised contempt, saying Nora was not a suitable match for her son. But Nora had refused the money without a second's hesitation. "Mrs. Forrester, I was never with Freddy for his money. My feelings for him are genuine. And don't worry, I won't put you in a difficult position. Give me 3 years. I will become someone who can stand beside Freddy as his equal." Mrs. Forrester had been skeptical. "Nora, you are indeed brilliant, but you are still not a match for Freddy. What if, after all that time, you still don't measure up?" Nora's expression was firm. "There are no what-ifs. I will succeed. And if you don't," Mrs. Forrester pressed, "then you will leave Freddy." Nora had agreed, making a pact with his mother. When Freddy found out, he threw a fit, then curled up beside Nora, looking aggrieved. "Nora, how could you? What if you don't succeed? Are you going to abandon me?" Looking at his reddened eyes, Nora had soothed him. "Don't worry, I will definitely succeed, and if by some chance I don't, well, then I'll just have to run away with you." That had satisfied him. "Okay, we'll run away together." So, for the past year, Nora had worked like her life depended on it, pushing herself to be better, more brilliant. It wasn't just for Freddy, it was for herself. She, Nora Rhodes, was not inferior to anyone. She was worthy of anyone. Suddenly, her work phone rang. The CEO of the parent company had arrived and was calling a meeting. Nora stood up and went to the conference room. The topic of the meeting was the group's plan to expand into overseas markets. The first target was China, and they needed a suitable person to lead the charge, negotiate partnerships, and establish the company's presence there. At the end of the discussion, Nora's name was called. The CEO of HS, Mr. Harrison, smiled warmly at her. "Nora, you're of Chinese descent, so you should have a deep understanding of the country. I want you to go. This will be a significant challenge for you. Do you dare to accept it?" The other executives were shocked and tried to dissuade him. Such a critical expansion should be handled by seasoned veterans. Nora, despite her brilliance, was young and relatively inexperienced. They felt she wasn't ready for such a monumental task. The CEO overruled their objections, his gaze fixed on Nora, his smile gentle. "Nora, I have great faith in you. You're brilliant, with a powerful drive and an indomitable spirit. You remind me of myself when I was young. If you succeed in establishing our company in China, I will give you 30% of the shares in the China division. The better the division does, the more your shares will be worth. Then you can stand shoulder to shoulder with your young boyfriend. Are you up for the challenge?" Nora thought for a moment, then stood up. "Mr. Harrison, thank you for this opportunity. I will not let you down." Mr. Harrison patted her on the shoulder. "Good girl. I knew I wasn't mistaken about you." After everyone else had left, Nora walked the CEO to his car. As she closed the door, she said with immense gratitude, "Professor, thank you." Mr. Harrison smiled. "My dear girl, you don't have to thank me. I'm not doing this without a reason. I believe you will lead our company to great success in China." Nora replied, "Professor, I won't disappoint you." The CEO of HS was also one of Nora's former professors, a fact she had discovered at her first meeting as a vice president. He knew about her relationship with Freddy and was using this opportunity to promote her. Nora was deeply grateful to this man, who was both a mentor and a father figure to her. Back at her apartment, Nora collapsed onto the sofa, completely exhausted. A full day of work had left her feeling half dead. The bedroom door opened, and Freddy emerged, naturally tying on an apron as he headed to the kitchen. Half an hour later, Freddy was holding Nora in his arms, feeding her tomato and beef brisket soup one spoonful at a time. "Drink some soup, then get some rest." Nora leaned against him, enjoying being fed, completely content. "Freddy, you're like the perfect doting husband right now. I'm so happy." Freddy chuckled. "Nora, please stop pushing yourself so hard. You've lost so much weight this past year, it hurts me to see it. Just run away with me already." Nora snorted with laughter and poked his cheek. "Freddy, it's not just because of you. It's for me too. Even without you, I would still strive to become a better version of myself." Freddy sighed. He could never win an argument with Nora. "All right, you'll become more and more brilliant. Just don't get tired of me then." After finishing the soup, Nora told Freddy about her transfer to China. Freddy had no objections. The Forrester family business started in China before moving to the US. The headquarters is in America now, but we still have a branch in China. I can request a transfer back. The official company documents arrived quickly. It was clear the move into the Chinese market had been long in the planning. 3 months later, Nora and her team flew back to China. As the plane landed, Nora looked at the familiar surroundings, her heart filled with 1,000 emotions. After so many years, it was still the same. On the night of their arrival, Nora's assistant was already flooded with dinner invitations from the heads of various domestic companies. It wasn't just HS that wanted to break into the Chinese market. All the local companies were scrambling to partner with HS. After all, HS was one of the top-ranked financial corporations in the world. Nora looked at the stack of names her assistant handed her, all seeking partnerships. After a moment's thought, she smiled. "Let's just put them all together." Her assistant was stunned for a moment. "Is that a good idea?" Nora tilted her head slightly. "Why wouldn't it be? We need to create competition, make them lay their cards on the table. The fiercer they compete, the more advantageous it is for us. Besides, they are the ones seeking a partnership, not us. You can tell them about the joint dinner. If they don't think it's appropriate, they don't have to come." The assistant nodded and immediately set about contacting the selected CEOs who were qualified to seek a partnership. The dinner was set for 3 days later. During that time, Nora and her team from HS conducted a comprehensive analysis of the Chinese market, striving to find the most suitable partner for maximum profit. The pressure on Nora was immense. The CEO of HS had given her a mission: to turn a $2 billion investment into at least $6 billion in 2 years, a threefold return. Anything less would be considered a failure, a stain on her career that would result in demotion and a pay cut. She refused to fail, refused to be looked down upon by those who secretly mocked her. She had $2 billion at her disposal, but she had to invest it in projects with the highest potential return and the lowest risk. Otherwise, making $6 billion would be a pipe dream. After 3 days of non-stop meetings, they had narrowed it down to over 30 projects. The CEOs of those companies would all be at the dinner. Nora's goal for the evening was to negotiate the best possible terms from those CEOs for these projects. Nora ate a few bites of food to line her stomach. Tonight was going to be a tough battle. A victory would lay a solid foundation for their entry into the Chinese market. A failure would mean an uphill struggle from then on. Chapter 13. A show of force in the private room of the hotel, the heads of China's major corporations were gathered, laughing and chatting, the atmosphere lively. "I hear the person HS sent to lead this is of Chinese descent. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will win 100 battles. Someone of Chinese heritage would understand the market better." So, what if they are? Their company is still American. I think we should band together. How about we aim to get the largest investment for the smallest price? Several of the senior executives nodded in agreement. "I also think HS is being too arrogant. I invited her out individually, and she refused. Instead, she gathers all of us here before she'll even show her face. Everyone present was displeased with the arrangement. A one-on-one meeting would have been more conducive to haggling. A group setting would only breed competition. They didn't want to come, but the funding from HS was too tempting. No one wanted to miss out on a piece of the pie. Just as they were discussing how to give HS a show of force, Nora pushed open the door and walked in. With a professional smile, Nora entered and, under the astonished gazes of the room, took the head seat at the table. Good evening, everyone. I am Nora Rhodes, the executive CEO of HS in China. In the future, I will be your point of contact for all partnerships with HS. I look forward to working with you all. With that, Nora poured herself a glass of wine and drank it in one go. The executives sized her up. Seeing how young she was, they immediately felt a sense of disdain. Miss Rhodes, we've heard so much about you. I didn't realize it would be so difficult to get a meeting. To think that all of us prominent figures in the Chinese business world had to gather together just to have the privilege of seeing you. The words were dripping with sarcasm, accusing her of putting on airs. Nora smiled. I appreciate your understanding. HS is new to partnerships in China, and there is simply too much to do. With so many of you esteemed executives, I don't have time to meet with each of you individually. However, once a partnership is confirmed, I will certainly treat you to a meal to apologize. Her meaning was clear. There were too many people asking for a partnership, and she didn't have time to dine with them all. Only a confirmed partner was worthy of a private meal. The executives were displeased, but could do little about it. They resorted to trying to trip her up in other ways. Halfway through the dinner, they got down to business. One of the executives passed her a contract. Miss Rhodes, this is our project. Take a look and tell us how much you plan to invest. We won't consider a partnership for anything less than $30 million. Nora glanced at the contract, sneered, and tossed it back on the table. Mr. King, are you joking with me because you think I'm young? Where in this deeply flawed project do you see a value of $30 million? Mr. King's expression was arrogant. Surely Miss Rhodes has heard the saying, the greater the risk, the greater the reward? You're still too young. Investment is all about risk and reward. If you're not willing to take a gamble, how can you expect to make money? Nora scoffed. He was taking her for a fool, thinking she was too young to see through his scheme. In that proposal, HS would bear all the risk, while Mr. King's company would reap most of the rewards. Mr. King, since you clearly have no sincerity in partnering with us, please see yourself out. Mr. King's expression instantly turned cold. Nora, what is the meaning of this? You are so unprofessional. This kind of behavior won't get you anywhere in China. The other executives stood up in support. Miss Rhodes, this is how we do business in China. If you don't agree, then there's nothing more to discuss. Nora saw their coordinated attempt to intimidate her, to control her, and she laughed. So this is how business is done in China? By treating people like fools. Since you have no intention of forming a genuine partnership, then we'll just pack up and go home. The Chinese market isn't a necessity for us. With that, she turned to leave, instructing her assistant, report back to headquarters. These business leaders in China have no real interest in partnering with HS. There's no need for us to bend over backwards and hand them our money like a charity. Mr. King began to panic. Nora, are you giving up on the Chinese market? Nora's expression remained calm. We came to China for mutual cooperation and shared profits, not to be played for fools. With HS' international reputation, even if we don't succeed in China, there are other countries begging to partner with us. She turned to leave the room, but as the door opened, she ran into someone. Julian Rhodes stared at the woman in front of him, his hand trembling slightly. Nora, you're really back. Nora was surprised to see him. She didn't recall the Rhodes group being on her list of potential projects. Besides, with their current strength, they didn't need to seek outside investment. Julian noticed the tense atmosphere at the table and asked softly what had happened. Nora gave him a brief summary. Julian immediately produced a project contract and handed it to her. Miss Rhodes, if they lack sincerity, perhaps you'd be interested in our company's proposal. Nora was confused, but Julian gestured for her to look at it. His assistant brought a chair and placed it next to her. Nora reviewed the document. It was an excellent project, and the terms were incredibly generous. Nearly 70% of the profits were offered to HS, while the Rhodes Group would bear most of the investment risk. It was practically a guaranteed profit for HS. Nora closed the file. Julian, the Rhodes Group could easily handle this project without our investment. Julian's gaze never left her face. Yes, but this is a show of my sincerity to HS. I want to partner with you. Although this is your first foray into the Chinese market, HS reputation precedes it. If we want to expand overseas in the future, we will need your help. Besides, this is mutually beneficial. A little less profit in exchange for a long-term partner is a win for us. Nora turned back to the room. All right. I see your sincerity, Mr. Rhodes. I hope we have a pleasant partnership ahead. In the future, HS will give priority to projects from the Rhodes Group. And if you wish to expand overseas, HS will do everything in its power to assist you. Hearing this, the other executives were filled with shock and regret. They had forgotten that while Nora was young, she represented HS. They could look down on her, but they couldn't afford to offend her company. HS was one of the top 3 financial corporations in the world. A good relationship with them could make their own overseas expansion effortless. How could they have been so foolish? Nora made a note on the contract. Since this is a partnership, we can't just reap the benefits. HS will fully fund this project. Consider it a sign of our sincerity to our first partner in China. With that, Nora signed the contract without another word. The other executives' envy intensified. Chapter 14. Winning back the other executives quickly dropped their posturing. They discarded the difficult projects they had prepared and presented their real proposals. Nora took one, glanced at it, and immediately crossed out the profit margin, adding another 20%. The CEO who had presented it was instantly displeased. Miss Rhodes, taking 70% of the profit is a bit much, don't you think? Nora looked up. Too much? Then we don't have a deal. You're free to find other investors. The CEO gritted his teeth. If he could find other investors, he wouldn't be here begging HS. The project was a golden goose, but it required an investment of over $5 billion, with potential profits of over $10 billion. They couldn't afford it on their own. HS offering over $3 billion for a 70% stake wasn't entirely unreasonable. In the end, Nora selected the most profitable projects and pushed the profit margins to the absolute limit. By the time it was over, Nora's hand was cramping from signing so many contracts, and she had been plied with a significant amount of alcohol by the executives. When she left the private room, she was quite drunk. Her assistant helped her see off all the executives. Only Julian remained. He looked at the woman who could now stand on her own, who could hold her own against cunning old veterans of the business world and come out on top. He felt a surge of pride, but even more, a deep-seated ache. Nora, you've grown up so much, you're completely different from before. Nora turned, forcing herself to stay coherent. Brother, long time no see, thank you for your help today. If Julian hadn't appeared at that crucial moment, presenting his project and making his stance clear, she might have had to go several more rounds with those old foxes to achieve her goal. Just as Julian was about to suggest she come home, a car pulled up in front of them. The door opened, and Freddy rushed out, taking Nora from her assistant's arms and pulling her into his own embrace. Nora, why did you drink so much? Nora's eyes were hazy with intoxication as she leaned against Freddy's shoulder. It was those old foxes. They couldn't get the better of me, so they resorted to getting me drunk. Freddy sighed, opened the car door, and looked at Nora's assistant. You can go home and get some rest. I'll take care of Nora. After a few instructions, the assistant left, reassured. Freddy acted as if he hadn't seen Julian at all. He lifted Nora and was about to put her in the car. But Julian could no longer hold back. He stepped forward and blocked Freddy. Where are you taking her? Freddy looked up, his eyes cold. I'm taking Nora home. Julian stood in his way, his voice laced with anger. Give her to me. She is my sister. The only home she has is with the Rhodes family. I don't recognize this home you speak of. With that, Julian reached out to grab Nora, but Freddy dodged him. Mr. Rhodes, what are you talking about? Nora has nothing to do with you anymore. When she left, she paid back everything she owed you. As for you claiming to be her brother, you nearly killed her. Do you really think you're worthy of being her brother? For all these years in America, we've relied on each other. She is my girlfriend now. In the future, we will be a family. Julian knew everything Freddy said was true, And the truth was what hurt the most. He had hurt Nora, lost her, and now he wanted to do everything in his power to keep her. When he heard Freddy call himself Nora's boyfriend, he was consumed by jealousy. He had raised Nora. She had loved him first. What right did Freddy have to swoop in and take his place? In the past, when Nora was in America, he could fool himself into letting go. But now that she was back, he couldn't. He had to fight for her. He looked at Freddy, his eyes burning with a hidden fire. I wronged Nora. I will apologize to her, compensate her, and beg for her forgiveness. I raised her. I am the closest person to her, the one who can take care of her best. Give her to me. Freddy ignored Julian's warning and placed Nora in the car. The next second, a fist connected with Freddy's face. He turned and without hesitation punched back. The two of them began to brawl, with Julian seeming to be at a slight disadvantage. Julian, your feelings for Nora aren't just those of a brother, are they? The way you look at her. It's not how a brother looks at a sister. It's how a man looks at a woman. Freddy landed a punch on Julian's face. If Julian were just Nora's brother, Freddy wouldn't be so hostile. But he could clearly see the desire in Julian's eyes, the desire a man has for a woman. That made Julian his rival. And a man always treats his rival like an enemy. Julian was no different. Nora's head was throbbing. She had been on the verge of passing out, but the sound of shouting brought her back. She peered through the car window and saw two familiar figures locked in a fight. Her mind went blank. What was happening? Why were they fighting? Without thinking, Nora pushed open the car door and ran out, placing herself in front of Freddy. When Julian saw that the person in front of him was now Nora, he immediately pulled back his fist. Freddy also instinctively drew back his hand, but the two men continued to glare at each other, their eyes flashing with a murderous intent. Nora looked at their bruised faces and rubbed her temples. Freddy, brother, what are you two doing? Julian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, his eyes fixed on Nora, not Freddy. Nora, let's go home. He reached out to take her hand, but Nora instinctively pulled away. Brother, you have a new family. It wouldn't be right for me to go. Lydia wouldn't be happy. Freddy is my boyfriend. He'll take care of me. Julian quickly explained, Nora, I don't have a new family. I called off the engagement with Lydia 6 years ago. We never had a chance. Our home is still there. It's still there. Please come home with me, Nora. I was wrong before. You can hit me, yell at me, hate me, do whatever you want. Just please don't abandon me again. I've been waiting for you to come home. Nora felt overwhelmed and took a few steps back. Brother, I've started a new life. But Julian shook his head vehemently. Nora, we can start over too. I love you. The kind of love where two people spend their lives together as partners. Can we please start over? Can we build a home that's just ours? Chapter 15. Motive beside her, Freddy clenched his fists, struggling to contain his anger. Nora sighed. Julian, I have a boyfriend. The only feelings left between us are those of a brother and sister. Please don't say things that will upset my boyfriend. As if to declare her allegiance, Nora took Freddy's hand, their fingers intertwining. The sight was a dagger to Julian's heart. Fueled by the alcohol he had consumed and pushed over the edge by this new pain, his reason snapped. He pointed at Freddy and demanded, Nora, is it because of him? He's the one who tricked you into staying out all night, making me misunderstand you. He's not a good person. With that, Julian lunged forward and grabbed Freddy's sleeve. You've been coveting my sister for a long time, haven't you? What gives you the right? Freddy took the punch without retaliating, instead turning a wounded look on Nora. Nora's heart ached. For all these years, Freddy had been the one to care for her, to walk with her through her darkest times. And now, because of her, he was being hurt again. She was filled with guilt and pain. She stepped forward, pushed Julian away, and slapped him across the face. Julian, have you gone mad? Isn't this all your own doing? You were the one who said my love was disgusting, that it made you sick. You were the one who kicked me out of the house. What right do you have to blame anyone else? Julian's eyes turned red. Nora, I wronged you. You have every right to hate me. Just please, give me a chance to make it up to you. Nora said, Julian, I don't hate you. There can only be hate where there is love. I hope you'll calm down. I'm very grateful for the years you took care of me. That bond can't be erased. But I only see you as a brother. If you ever lay a hand on my boyfriend or insult him again, we won't even be able to be that. Julian's heart constricted with a pain so intense he could barely breathe. In that moment, he felt what Nora must have felt 6 years ago. Back then, he had callously rejected her passionate love. In fact, he had been worse. He had nearly killed her for Lydia. Now, he was reaping what he had sown. Nora took Freddy's hand and turned to leave. Julian stood frozen, watching the car disappear from sight. He had thought that with Nora's return, he would have a chance, but she had shattered that illusion. He finally understood the reality. It was over between them. The possibility of them being together had died the day he forced her to go to America. The kindness in her voice now was not love, but a sense of duty, a nod to the years he had cared for her, and a final letting go. The painful truth crushed him, his heart aching to the point of suffocation. Back at their apartment, Nora took out the first aid kit and gently applied medicine to the bruises on Freddy's face, her eyes filled with pain. "Freddy, are you an idiot? Why didn't you dodge?" But Freddy just smiled foolishly and leaned into her embrace. "Nora, in your heart, I'm more important than Julian, right?" Nora laughed and poked a bruise on his head. "So you deliberately got yourself hurt just because you were jealous." Freddy realized how childish he had been. "Nora, Julian loves you, and you used to love him. You have so many years of history together. I was afraid I couldn't compare. I was afraid you would leave me." Nora put down the cotton swab and pretended to be angry. "Freddy, is that really what you think of me? That I'm so disloyal?" Freddy quickly tried to explain, accidentally touching one of his wounds and crying out in pain. Nora immediately soothed him. "Freddy, I did love Julian, but I don't anymore. That love died when I went to America. Now, all I feel for him is gratitude for those years of care and the bond of a brother and sister. As for him loving me, that has nothing to do with me. There is no possibility of us ever being together." Freddy's heart was finally at ease. "Nora, when will you marry me? I'm always so anxious. Why don't we just elope now, go somewhere no one knows us? I'll support you," Nora laughed. "I can't do that. I have to earn a good dowry. Then I'll marry you. How about that?" Freddy nodded. "That works. You marry me, and I'll stay home, be a good husband, take care of the kids, and look pretty, while you go out and make a living for us." They imagined a beautiful future together and laughed. After that night, Nora threw herself back into her work. In less than half a month in China, she had signed over a dozen major projects worth over $100 million each, and more than 30 smaller projects in the tens of millions. The speed at which she worked left the executives at HS headquarters stunned. No one had expected her to be so effective. The local executives in China were also shocked. In less than 2 weeks, HS had invested billions. This was real hard cash, all invested at once. It wasn't that their companies didn't have that kind of money, but no one dared to invest it all at once. Moving billions would affect a company's entire operation. If the investments failed, all their ongoing projects would be at risk. Nora was bold to invest so much money at once. At the same time, their respect for HS grew. To entrust a young woman with billions of dollars in liquid capital for her to decide its fate was a testament to the company's power. At the HS China office, Nora was in a meeting when her assistant came in and whispered something in her ear. Nora frowned slightly, gave a few instructions, and the meeting continued. Half an hour later, the meeting ended. As Nora walked into her office, she saw a familiar figure standing in front of her desk. "What are you doing here?" Nora asked coldly. Lydia turned around, a fake, twisted smile on her face. "Nora, you seem to have done well for yourself these past few years. The executive CEO of the HS branch. You should be thanking me. If it weren't for me, you never would have gone abroad and achieved what you have today." Nora sat on the sofa and looked at Lydia with contempt. "You didn't come here just to reminisce. State your purpose." Lydia was infuriated by Nora's condescending tone. "Nora, stay away from Julian. He was finally getting over you, and then you had to show up again." Nora sneered. "Lydia, I have only brotherly feelings for Julian and nothing more. You can rest assured on that point." Lydia sized her up. Seeing that Nora's expression was indeed calm when she mentioned Julian, she nodded in satisfaction. "That's for the best." She threw an envelope onto the table. "These are your old love letters. You can have them back." Nora glanced at them, then picked up a lighter and set them on fire. As Lydia reached the door, she turned around. Chapter 16. "You're going to be an aunt, Nora. You're going to be an aunt. I hope you'll come to our wedding and the baby's 100-day celebration." Nora replied with perfect composure, "Congratulations." After Lydia left, Nora rubbed her temples. Lydia had come today to brandish her old love letters, a pathetic attempt at a power play. If those letters had been leaked, they could have indeed damaged her reputation and the company's. That night, Nora received a call from Julian. She hesitated for a moment before answering. "Nora, I heard Lydia went to see you today. Did she do anything to you?" Nora's reply was cool. "No." There was a moment of silence on the other end. "Nora, I know everything about what happened 6 years ago. It was Lydia who deliberately framed and slandered you. The Lowell family has been in decline for years, and Lydia is no longer the glamorous figure she once was." Nora was a little surprised. "Brother, that's all in the past. I've moved on. I heard Lydia is pregnant. I wish you both happiness." Julian quickly, frantically explained, "Nora, what happened with Lydia was an accident. I'm not going to marry her, you don't have to worry." Nora sighed. "Brother, whether you marry her or not is irrelevant to me. It has nothing to do with me." Julian's spirits plummeted. After a few more stilted words, he hung up. That night, Julian summoned Lydia. Her pregnancy was the result of an accident 3 months prior. Julian had been at a business dinner and had been forced to drink too much. When he got home, he had gone to Nora's old room. Lydia had somehow let herself into the house. In his drunken haze, Julian had mistaken Lydia for Nora, and under the influence of alcohol, something had happened that never should have. When he woke up the next morning, Julian was filled with regret and fury. After confronting Lydia, he coldly warned her not to tell anyone, then gave the Lowell family a business deal to breathe some life back into their dying company as compensation. But then Lydia had announced she was pregnant. Her parents had hounded him, demanding he take responsibility. Lydia had then used Nora's old love letters to threaten him. If he didn't marry her, she would leak them and ruin Nora's name. Even though Nora wasn't in the country at the time and the impact would have been minimal, Julian couldn't bear the thought of any stain on her reputation. With Nora gone, he had thought their story was over, so he had agreed to marry Lydia. But now he regretted it. Even though Nora had rejected him, he still wanted to fight for a chance. Lydia arrived at the Rhodes house, her heart filled with excitement. She ran to Julian and hugged him. "Julian, you called me over. Is something important happening?" Julian pried her arms off him. "Lydia, the engagement is off, and get rid of the child. I'll invest a sum of money into your family's business to help you recover your former glory." Lydia stared at him, stunned. "Julian, are you abandoning me again? You don't even want our child." Julian's gaze was cold. "Lydia, you know exactly how this child came to be. If you hadn't snuck into my house, none of this would have happened. And what happened 6 years ago was your own doing. You shouldn't have slandered Nora. The fact that your family isn't bankrupt yet is the greatest mercy I can show you. If you dare to touch a single hair on Nora's head again, I won't hold back." Lydia gritted her teeth and sneered. Nora, Julian, you still can't let her go, so what if I slandered her? Weren't you the one who didn't trust her, who didn't dare to admit your own feelings, who drove her away? And now you want to pin all the blame on me so you can get back together with her. Don't forget, Julian, she doesn't love you anymore. She has a boyfriend." Julian's fists clenched. "Get out." Lydia stormed out, her eyes flashing with a vicious light. A few days later, an assistant rushed into Nora's office. "Miss Rhodes, there are some unfavorable things circulating about you online." Nora took the tablet from her assistant's hand and saw the headline. "HS Executive CEO and Rhodes Group President in Incestuous Affair." Below it were photos of her old love letters. The assistant anxiously asked what they should do. This kind of scandal could be very damaging to the company. Nora rubbed her temples and instructed her to arrange a press conference. That afternoon, Nora faced a barrage of questions from the press. She calmly recounted her entire history with Julian. She was the adopted daughter of the Rhodes family, raised by Julian. It was true that she had once loved him. She didn't deny it, and she never felt her love was wrong or shameful. She had never hurt anyone. By the time Julian was engaged, she had already left for America to study, and her love for him had ended then. Now she had a boyfriend. They had been together for 6 years, their relationship was strong, and they were very much in love. As for Julian, looking back, it was just the confusion of a young girl mixing up romantic love with familial affection. She hoped everyone would focus on HS business partnerships and not pry into her private life. Nora's frank and honest admission, without a hint of defensiveness, took the sting out of the story. The Rhodes Group quickly issued a statement confirming that Nora was simply their president's sister. The matter was closed. Freddy began to appear constantly by Nora's side, a public declaration of his claim on her. 6 months later, Nora left the office. She called Freddy to let him know she was on her way home. Today was their 5th anniversary, and Freddy had said he was preparing something special at home and she should just come back on her own after work. Nora walked to the underground parking garage. Just as she opened her car door, a sharp pain exploded at the back of her head and she collapsed. When she woke up, she was in a derelict factory, tied up. She looked at the person, standing by the door, and tensed. "Lydia, what are you doing? Kidnapping is a crime." Lydia's face was pale, her expression unhinged. "A crime? I don't care anymore. What's the point of living? I might as well take you with me." Lydia grabbed Nora's face, yanking her hair. "Nora, you went to America. Why did you have to come back? Why? I was so close to marrying Julian. 6 years ago, you ruined my engagement. Now you've killed my child. I want you to pay with your blood." Nora gritted her teeth against the pain. Chapter 17. "Brother, I'll see you next year, Lydia. Calm down. I didn't kill your child, and I never wanted to ruin your wedding." Lydia laughed coldly. "That's right, you didn't, but your very existence is a mistake. Nora, you should have died in America." With that, she kicked over a nearby can of gasoline, dousing the area. Nora didn't want to die. She used all her strength to crawl toward the door. Lydia swung a pipe, striking Nora's leg and immobilizing her. The next second, a spark ignited the gasoline, and flames engulfed everything. Just as Nora thought she was about to be burned alive, a figure burst through the fire. "Nora, don't be afraid. Brother is here." Julian swept her into his arms and ran for the exit. Lydia immediately tried to block them. "Julian, why? I waited for you for so many years, loved you for so long, and you never even gave me a second glance. You even forced me to kill my own child. If I can't have you, then you can both die with me." Julian kicked Lydia away. "You're insane." They were almost at the door when Nora saw Lydia behind Julian, brandishing an iron pipe. "Brother, look out." Julian, already suffering from multiple burns, took the full force of the blow. He collapsed, shielding Nora with his body as Lydia rained down blow after blow. "Brother," Nora cried, her heart breaking. Julian covered her eyes. "Don't be afraid, I'm here. I will always protect you." Just then, Freddy burst in and kicked Lydia away. Julian handed Nora to him. "Get her out of here." Freddy looked at Julian, uneasy. "What about you?" Julian replied. "Get Nora out first, then come back for me." Freddy nodded. "Wait for me, I'll be right back." As they were leaving, Lydia struggled to her feet again. "None of you are getting out of here, you'll all die with me." Julian turned and threw himself at Lydia. Weakened from the beating, he could only use his last bit of strength to pin her down. Seeing Freddy reach the doorway, he breathed a sigh of relief. He shouted, "Nora, I'm sorry." Nora looked back and saw Julian on the ground. Lydia, completely unhinged, raised the iron pipe and brought it down on his head. Then, the factory roof collapsed. Nora screamed, trying to run back in, but Freddy held her tight. "Freddy, my brother is still in there. We have to save him. That's my brother, the one who raised me." Freddy held her, his own voice breaking. Police cars and ambulances arrived. Nora had a long dream. She was back in the past, the day she was brought to the Rhodes house. She had been so small and timid, staring at the beautiful, castle-like mansion. Suddenly, a voice rang out. "Hey, little one, so you're my sister. They say you don't have a home. Well, from now on, this is your home, and I'm your brother. Come on, call me brother." Nora had softly whispered, "Brother." Julian had laughed. "That sounds nice. Since you called me brother, I'll spoil you and take care of you for the rest of your life." In an instant, the scene changed to a sea of fire. Julian stood in the flames, his smile as gentle as the day they first met. "Nora, I broke my promise. I can't protect you for a lifetime. You have to be happy." Nora reached out to grab him, but her hand passed through empty air. "Brother, no." Nora woke up, and Freddy immediately pulled her into an embrace. "Nora, don't be afraid. I'll always be with you." Her eyes were red. "Freddy, where's my brother? Where's Julian? I think I had a terrible dream." Freddy's voice was hoarse. "Nora, I'm so sorry." Nora froze. "So, I really don't have a brother anymore?" The police came and explained what had happened. Neither Lydia nor Julian had been rescued. Both had perished in the fire. The investigation revealed that Lydia, after being forced by her parents to have an abortion, had suffered a mental breakdown and hired someone to kidnap Nora. Her parents had done it because Julian had offered them a business deal in exchange for getting rid of the child. Julian had also, upon Nora's return, canceled his engagement to Lydia for the second and final time, which had fueled her hatred for Nora. After the police left, Nora spent 2 weeks in the hospital recovering. She was quiet and withdrawn. Freddy knew she was grieving and simply stayed by her side. Julian had been her family for over a decade. Their bond of kinship had transcended all the love and hate that had come before. After her discharge, Julian's former assistant brought her a set of inheritance documents. All of the Rhodes family assets, including the company, were now hers. The will had been written a year prior and came with a letter. "Nora, I did many things to hurt you, things I can never make up for. When I saw you with Freddy, I was so jealous. But thinking about it, you two are perfect for each other, and he treats you so well. Then I heard his mother looked down on you, thought you weren't good enough for him. I was so angry. My sister, Julian Rhodes' sister, is good enough for anyone. I know you're brilliant, Nora. I know you can prove to everyone what you're capable of on your own. But I want you to know that I will always be there for you to lean on. I won't come to your wedding. Seeing the cabbage I raised for so many years get taken by some pig, I'm afraid I'd end up punching Freddy again. But even if I'm not there, I'll make sure your dowry is ready. I had originally intended to use the Rhodes family fortune as a dowry to marry you myself. Since I can't do that, let it be your dowry instead, so you can marry the man you love in the grandest way possible. Finally, I wish my little princess, Nora, a lifetime of happiness." After reading the letter, Nora couldn't stop the tears from flowing. Although she had always said she didn't hate Julian, she had harbored resentment. That was why she had deliberately kept her distance, watching him suffer with guilt. Now, thinking back, it all seemed so trivial. Why had she held on to that resentment for so long? Nora handled Julian's funeral arrangements and took over as the CEO of the Rhodes Group. A year later, she and Freddy were married. Mr. Harrison, her professor and CEO of HS, attended the wedding and gifted her the entire HS China division as part of her dowry. Her immense dowry made everyone envious, and suddenly, it seemed like the Forresters were the ones marrying up. Year after year passed. Nora visited Julian's grave, smiling as she shared stories of her life. As she was about to leave, she smiled and said, "Brother, you're going to be an uncle soon." A flower petal, carried by the wind, landed on her hand. Freddy ran over with a coat. "Nora, let's go home, don't catch a cold." Nora nodded, her eyes on the gravestone. "Brother, I'll come see you again soon." Freddy added, "Brother, next time I'll bring your nephew to see you." The end.